All right, what's going on, everybody? July 14th, it is leg day. It is in leg strength month. It is an EMOM day, meaning every single block is going to be an EMOM. The beauty of the EMOMs is it keeps everybody, in terms of time, on the same page. It creates kind of this baseline that everybody has to follow, which is really cool. It keeps us all very structured. And I think when we're all moving kind of as a unit or on the same clock, it's just a little bit more enjoyable for a lot of people. I think it's just kind of part of that group fitness aspect. That being said, from a hypertrophy standpoint, from a training standpoint, a progressional overload standpoint, it's not something you want to do all the time. I'll give you an example, right? If it takes me, hypothetically, 40 seconds to do my front squats, and the person next to me is just more prepared, they're more seasoned, their motor pattern is just more put together than mine, and it's only taking them 28 seconds to do their front squats, I'm expending 12 more seconds of time under weight and under load. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add up and it does tax you. And in reality, if you got rid of the EMOM structure, that would be 12 less seconds of recovery that the person that finished before you or before me was having before they start their next set. So the volatility when you take the EMOM structure out of it does matter in the long term. And eventually when you get to certain weight thresholds, how fluent you are with the movement does come into play in your effectiveness of getting through whatever weight class it is that you're working on. So again, long story short, it's fun to put these EMOMs together. I think it does amplify your endurance and your capacity, knowing that you have a rigid time before you start your next set. But in the long run, you would prefer to not do this for hypertrophy training is basically what I'm getting at. So either way, you guys have some options here. You can choose to do, I would assume like 80% of people are just going to do the 50% plus. Your typical normal front squats, I put the T here to track. You're not tracking the EMOM, you're tracking the 5 sets of the front squats. So whether you choose the heavier version of this or your typical foundational 8 to 12 reps at 50 to 60%, make sure you write that down. The second block, 8 minutes, again, tracking the reset deadlift, not the EMOM, just to be clear. Reset deadlift just on its own, you are trying to move an immense amount of weight here. This is probably the most powerful movement we have in the gym. Do not be shy. Go find the appropriate weights. Remember, the whole point of the reset is to allow you to reset at the bottom of every single lift, re-engage, get all your technique under order, get your breathing under order, so you are as powerful as possible with each individual rep. Kind of like the front squats, some people are just more comfortable doing this quicker than others. This is not a race. I know it's every minute on the minute, but if you're somebody that can't reset quickly, and get everything re-engaged with each individual rep, lower your rep count here. I would rather you guys do 4 or 5 reps every minute than trying to aim for 7 or 8 with a lighter weight. So again, heavier weight, less reps is definitely the way to go here, depending on how comfortable you are with this movement. And then the low bench step overs adds a whole nother element into this. It just makes you change planes. It forces you a little bit more on the grip strength side, ankle, knee, and hip stability as you step over the bench and have to stabilize. It's just a more advanced movement. It's pretty small, but pretty big in terms of how it feels and how much it taxes you. So again, anytime you guys see these things in blue, just remember it's optional and it's usually harder. It's the advanced option. You certainly don't have to do it. Don't feel pressure to do it, especially if you just want to focus on the amount of weight you can pick up. Third block here, 2-minute EMOM again, 5 rounds. I think this is going to be probably the X factor block right here. Walking lunges, 1.5 to 2 shuttles, 35 to 50 pounds. You certainly can go heavier as gold standard weights. Otherwise, get as close to those weights as you can. Definitely want to track this. Walking lunges are never going to go away. And keep in mind, one full shuttle, and we've talked about this in class before, one full shuttle at the minimum is 10 lunges. So if you're doing 2 shuttles, at a bare minimum, you should be doing 20 lunges and then resting for the rest of 2 minutes, which is not a small amount, especially if you're moving some pretty serious weight relative to yourself. These things are going to light people up for sure. So again, take your time, do them appropriately. You want your knee again to brush the ground. If you have to settle for 1.5 shuttles for time purposes, we're just not conditioned enough. This is where the EMOM structure is really going to hit us. We're normally, if you were going to do 2 shuttles, you can take an entire 90 seconds after. If it takes you, 45, 50, 60 seconds to do 2 shuttles, you're now talking a minute or less of rest. It's just a lot different. And again, taxes your conditioning and your muscular endurance a lot more than your typical hypertrophy type of setup. So again, keep that in mind. And then your last block, of course, we always got to do some actual conditioning here. So it'll be interesting to see where people stand muscular endurance wise. The row and the squats, your glutes, your quads are going to be toasted. It'll be interesting to see what people pick here. I mean, this is one of those scenarios where it's going to be really easy for people to choose lesser numbers because you feel like you've already done a lot. I would urge you to do the opposite. If anything, start high and you can always scale back if you realize around 2, 3, or 4 you just don't have it in you. But at least give yourself the chance to do the higher volume. But this is a nice little way to just finish out with the body weight movements right here. So, anyways, I'm excited about this. Again, not something we can do all the time. At least, I mean, we could. I just don't feel like it is the best route in terms of progressional overload and getting stronger. So, enjoy.